Hey y'all, it's Sam Culper from Forward Observer. We need a name for you for the YouTube viewers. Not like Forward Observer Nation, that's dumb, but something. Let me know in the comments what you think so I can go, hey, whatever we're going to call everyone. All right, let's talk area intelligence. So I've gotten a lot of questions lately about how to set up local intelligence networks. And really for April, that's going to be my prime focus. March has been, let's get as many people working on their area studies as we can. If you're quarantined at home and now you need something to do your area study. You don't have to take my course, but if you want a kind of a framework to work through, a methodical process with some doctrine and some practical steps to get you started and really kind of get you to like an 80 to 100% solution, you can go to www.areaintelligencecourse.com and I'll do a webinar. Actually, maybe Thursday night. I'll tell you, it's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I'll do a webinar for everyone who's enrolled in that course, probably like tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And I'll kind of go through some stuff. But even if you don't take the course, you can go to forwardobserver.com because the course costs money and a lot of people are super cheap. But you can go to forwardobserver.com and I've written a ton of stuff. If you just click on category and go to area study, you're going to be able to read a lot of information for free. But take the course because it is my job. People have questions about how they can start gathering information locally. And there's a couple of good ways that I would start, or rather that I have started. Number one, I would get on Twitter. And if you want to create a new Twitter account, that's fine. But I would start looking up all your local news sources, not just the outlets, but also the individual reporters who work there. I would look up all your local government, county, city, state official accounts where they're going to be putting out information. And you know what? And and then either maybe some other local people or local outlets, that might produce good information. And you know what? When I get downtime, when I get a couple minutes, I just flip open Twitter on my phone and start scrolling through there. Or I'll go to the local, I'll go to, like today I was on the White House and President Trump's. Actually, I do this every morning. I check the White House's official account and President Trump's personal account, which is often a hoot. It's more entertainment than intelligence value, but occasionally it does have very good intelligence value. So that's how I would start. And then, if your local news outlets, if they have breaking news alerts or something like that, look, there's a lot of places you can get information from. But I would really start with your local official sources, especially during this pandemic, because they're going to be putting out information. Like I just saw, there's more official cases now in my county. By the way, last month we moved out of Austin, like out of the city limits, to an area of less, I would say less social and political pressure, and also much lower population density. And man, I'm so relieved. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be out of the city, and just in the nick of time too, man. Like this wasn't planned. Late last year, I just started having this feeling like I gotta get out of this city, man. I'm not saying that anything's gonna pop off there or whatever, but I don't know. I'm just glad I'm out, man. Super glad. All right, so let's talk about the OODA loop for a second. Now, a lot of guys, when we talk about the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act. A lot of people associate that with Colonel John Boyd and fighter pilots. Of course, he's the Air Force colonel who first described that. If you've taken a high-level or high-end tactical shooting course, your instructor, there's a good chance that he has talked about the OODA loop on a personal level. I've been talking about OODA on an organizational level, right? I mean, we look at any warfighting organization, and I would say any conflict organization like, a survival or prepper group or something like that, a neighborhood watch. Basically, we have OODA. Observe and orient is our intelligence gathering and intelligence analysis. Okay, observe is collection, orient is analysis, and then we have decide and act, and that is an ops function. In intelligence, I'm not deciding anything, and not acting on anything, okay, that's commander level, or S3, or operations or plans or whoever. Okay, they do that. We're talking about two different functions here primarily: an intelligence function and an operations function. Now, I also want you to look at the OODA loop in terms of how we process information, like individually, because a lot of people are good at a lot of people are good at observing, okay, collecting information, reading lots of different sources. The weak point for a lot of people is their orientation, their ability to orient, because critical thinking is not really taught as a skill anymore. And I'm not trying to disparage anyone. I'm certainly not trying to say nobody has the skill. It's just you can get on Facebook and see critical thinking is not everyone's number one skill, okay, in their toolbox. And so really that is something that we really need to sharpen, especially during emergencies. I've told that story before in North Carolina when we supported the Cajun Navy for Hurricane Florence. There was this levee out there that everyone kept referring to as a dam, and a city official came out and said, "Oh, the dam is breached. Okay, there's about to be a wall of 30-foot water rushing through here." And as soon as I saw that on Twitter, I was like, "Hang on, I've studied this map, and I do not remember seeing a dam on here." So I get on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers website and I look up the dams. There's no dam in Lumberton. What it was is a National Guard levee, like sandbag levee that they had put up, and by breached, everyone thought that meant wall of water. Well, just the water had risen and was going over the top of it. So we eventually sent a crew out there and got eyes on, and it turns out some water was leaking over the top. But that's the orient phase of this whole process. When we think about having boat teams out there who are in the water, boating around, rescuing people, pulling single mothers and their kids off of roofs, or going to a senior citizens facility and rescuing dozens of senior citizens who are up to their ankles or knees in water because nobody else was out there saving these people. If I had told those boat teams, "Hey, y'all need to get out of the water right now because the city official said you're about to be hanging 10, surfing on this giant wall of water. Y'all need to get out of the water right now." I would have skipped over. I would have observed, skipped over orient, and then went right to decide and act. And we can't do that. Okay, we have to also orient to this information. So I guess really that's kind of the bottom line: is make sure we're thinking critically. We're thinking about the second and third order effects of things. Okay, so when we talk about COVID-19, everyone's freaked out about COVID-19, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of some applicable situation. Maybe we haven't gotten there yet, but what orient actually looks like, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to come back and do another video. Let's move on. So last year I started this multi-county group, and I wanted to build it up, and I still do. COVID-19 has kind of put a damper on that, I think, for a little while. But in the Army we say every soldier is a sensor, and I want every member of that group to be a sensor. That's why I want to grow this preparedness network up and have a lot of people, literally as many people as possible. That way I have more people texting me stuff or radioing me stuff or emailing me stuff, more sensors out there. So that's one thing I recommend you also do during this COVID-19 is not just focus on OSINT, although that can be extremely valuable. Let's also start developing a human intelligence network, which is really going to be my main focus next month, is explaining what this actually looks like in practice, developing human intelligence sources and running even just an informal information sharing network. I'm not talking about espionage or James Bond or anything like that. I'm just simply talking about how do we develop folks to build some level of cooperation. So really building an area preparedness network is a really great way to go. Another question, Tip asks, how big should an area of operations or area of interest be? Your AO and your AI, area of operations, where you expect to operate during an emergency or doing a mission or whatever, and then area of interest, what you should also be keeping an eye on. So you can kind of think about this almost like a donut. where the inside of that donut, the donut hole, is your area of operations, and then the donut itself represents the area of interest. So I'm most concerned on what's going on in that inside the donut, but I'm also concerned about what's going on, I guess, on the donut. That's the difference between your AO and AI, I guess. That's probably a bad example. So let's think about this. A lot of people are self-quarantining. A lot of our local guys are basically holding up and self-quarantining as well, especially guys who are immunocompromised because they're getting over a sickness or they got some pre-existing, chronic illness or whatever. So their area of operations is going to be very small. It's going to be limited to their home, their property, maybe max. I mean, let's think about maximum area, might be your cul-de-sac or your subdivision or your, maybe a quarter mile in either direction. The question really is, where are you going to have to operate? That is your area of operations. So if you're self-quarantined and you say, well, I'm going to go to the grocery store once a week, or I'm not going to go to the grocery store at all, I got to go to the office 2 days a week or whatever, wherever you expect to operate or travel, that's your area of operations. And then you start looking outside of that area, and then you start saying, okay, well, the local hospital, I'm interested in what's going on over there. Or the local police substation, I'm interested in what's going on over there. There's an interstate exit near me. Okay, I'm interested in what's going on over there. Especially if you live in a city, and I don't know, COVID-19, this pandemic is probably not the best example for this, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So the area of operations, I'm not talking about miles. That's way, unless you have like some corridor to your office or to the grocery store or something like that. That's way too big. Remember, in our area of operations, we want to have what's called information dominance. Okay, I want to know everything or as much as possible that's happening in my area of operations. So my AO is actually quite small. And then I have a general area of interest where I'm just trying to pay attention to things going on. The best way to think about this is what happens in your AO could directly affect you. What happens in your area of interest could indirectly affect you. Or eventually affect you. I hope that answers your question. Small. I'm not talking miles for my area of interest. Not unless it's absolutely necessary. And then you probably lack the intelligence collection capacity to manage that area anyway. All right, OSINT. Yeah, we've already covered OSINT. Russ wants to know if I'm going to do a cooking show. Sorry, Culper's Country Cooking is not going to be featured on this YouTube channel. And then shoot, I forget if I answered this question or not, but James wants to know the best communications. What is the best communications for your area during an emergency aside from a cell phone? What radios do I recommend? And look, man, I'm not the S6 of our group. I was never into a big radio guy. I was never in Signal Corps or anything like that. But let me tell you what I use, because this is what was recommended to me by our communications guy. I have some Yaesu FT70DRs. Okay, it's a VHF, UHF. It's a handheld, essentially a walkie-talkie. It's 5 watts, and I've got a J-pole antenna. And actually, speaking of that, the very next step for our group is to make sure that everyone who's kind of self-quarantining in the area, we can maintain communications through ham radio. And actually, we'll be testing that out here very shortly, making sure everyone gets their antennas up and we can actually operationalize our comms plan. By the way, you can get the signals operating instruction off of Amron. Man, I forgot. This is like the third take I've tried to do this video, and I've completely forgotten whether I answered this question or not on this video. So Yaesu FT70DRs, they're about $160 plus a $50 J-pole or whatever you want to use. You don't have to use that. A lot of guys use the Baofeng radios. I don't mind that in a pinch. Here's my problem with these Baofeng or Baofeng radios. I've got a little contraption called a Unitim Bearcat 175 XLT that has close call technology. So I punch that button and it starts scanning for the nearest or the strongest, which will probably be the strongest signal. So if you're on those Baofeng radios, I call it my Bubba Finder, because I can find that frequency you're operating on it, and I can listen into your conversations. And there's nothing you can do about it. not on a Baofeng radio. Maybe that's not your concern. As an Intel guy, it is my concern. I don't want people listening into what I have to say. So the great thing about these Yaesu FT70DRs is that they have digital, your transmissions can be digitally encoded. So even if someone finds a signal, they will not automatically, like it won't come over a police scanner, for instance. Okay, not unless they have the ability to digitally encode Yaesu, whatever algorithm thing they use to do that. It's not encrypted, it's just encoded. So they're going to hear this funky sound over the radio, not my actual voice with potentially sensitive information. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's, to me, that's worth the extra money. Because the last thing I want to do is, be in a sensitive or precarious situation, and now I've, got someone potentially listening to me. That's why I like to listen. Because I want to potentially find those people in those sensitive or precarious situations. Guys, I've been kind of reticent, hesitant about talking about what my local group's doing, what initiatives I'm trying to implement and build. But I think I'm just going to have to break that down for everybody, because I think everyone should be doing the same thing. I'll have to do that in a future video. So subscribe to my channel if you want that video. I'll probably do that next. We're just going to sit down and have a heart-to-heart. I'm going to lay everything out on the table just about, because we need to, what I really want to do is start exporting this model, or these tactics, techniques, and procedures, the TTPs. Start exporting what I'm doing, because it's going to work well in our area, and everyone needs to do that. Honestly, my best advice for this COVID-19, like I said, I just moved. I told y'all that already. So I've been going around meeting my neighbors and stuff, and super nice people so far. I got a ham radio guy on my street now, which is nice. So another ham radio guy. So I'm going to be fine where I am. I want everyone else to be fine. So in the next video, I'll start breaking this stuff down. It's going to be a little bit difficult to do this now during the pandemic, but once we get out on the other side of the pandemic, or if you think things are going to get bad enough, here's the thing about COVID-19. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about catching it, just because now there's news about it causing permanent scarring on some people's lungs. Not everybody, but a certain percentage of patients have 20 to 30%, something like that, 20-30% decreased lung function or lung capacity, and that is concerning to me. Other than that, really, guys, we've got some massive economic issues headed our way. There's a very good chance that we see something on par with 2008. And I wake up every morning. I'm at work no later than 5:30, and I'm digging into the latest data, and I'm digging into the latest financial reporting, and I'm reading what all these hedge fund managers and big asset managers folks are going to say. Look, people, if you go to members.forwardobserver.com, you can sign up for my daily reports. And occasionally I'll get a question like, "Oh, Sam, why are you paying attention to what these financial bigwigs are saying?" Guys, BlackRock is the largest asset management firm in the world. They manage $9 trillion. Yeah, I read what they write. Okay, I read what their outlook is, because they have so much writing on the line, and they have, same thing with Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan Chase. Yeah, I read what their asset managers and chief economists have to say. It doesn't mean that I skip the orient phase, but that is part of my observation. So I pull all this information, and then I look at the information myself. So at any rate, you can go to members.forwardobserver.com. It's you can get my daily early warning intel brief every day, Monday through Friday, and now there's a podcast version of it as well. And don't skip the orient phase. Or, you can just pay me a small monthly fee. You can join the Forward Observer subscription. You can get access to all those benefits there. And then you can have me help do your orient phase for you if you so desire. A lot of people have really great things to say about it. So thanks for everyone who's a subscriber. That will do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will be back soon. Until next time, stay out front.